I learnt that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Now, although this is true, what is fear? When does fear turn into a phobia? What effects can fear and phobia have on the human body? What is the true difference between fear and phobia? See, many of these questions are ones that people often forget to think about, but are actually quite important and add important insight to our current understanding of what it is to be human. Fear is an emotion that is not at all alien to any of us. It's there when we encounter those heights, jump scares, and the odd spider in the bathtub. But what is fear? The dictionary definition of fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the threat of danger, pain, or harm. Even as this is true, it is important to add on just how important fear is. It could be argued that fear is the driving force of advancement of technology and the survival of humanity as a whole. As every child, every biological creature that can hear has two fears: the fear of falling and the fear of loud sounds, both of which are prevalent in the young ages.
Persons who experience such an abnormal fear are described as having a form of anxiety disorder. This is known as a phobia. The term phobia refers to an intense, irrational fear of a particular object or situation, whether real or imagined. The fear is so severe that it interferes with the individual's daily functioning, restricting their activities and causing much distress. In many cases, individuals experiencing phobias recognize that their fears are irrational but feel helpless to control them. Phobias are typically grouped into three major categories: specific phobias, social phobias, and agoraphobia.
Now, what actually happens to the body when you feel fear? Let us explain this through an example. If someone were to play a prank on you and scare you unknowingly, what would essentially happen is that your brain would then create a signal based on that circumstance. This signal then travels to the brain, specifically the amygdala, and sends out messages to the other parts of the brain, again, specifically the hippocampus, within the autonomic nervous system to activate the fight or flight responses of the body. And this is when you usually freeze involuntarily or run.
John Watson and Rosalie Rayner were two researchers at Johns Hopkins University who innocently wondered what caused phobias. Their next move was not quite so innocent. They got themselves a baby, about 9 months old, and experimented with drilling fear into a child's mind. They called the baby Albert B. Albert's mother was an employee at the hospital at the time, and Albert was staying in the hospital for an unspecified reason. The researchers showed Albert B, called Little Albert, in subsequent mentions of the study, a number of things, including a rabbit, different kinds of masks, a rat, burning papers, and a monkey. So far, it sounds like little Albert had things pretty good. He showed no fear at any of these creatures. They then showed the baby a tame white lab rat and let it roam around until the little kid reached out for it.
The next time the baby was shown the rat, the psychologist struck a metal bar behind him, making it clang loudly. Albert was startled and began crying. Naturally, due to the fact that initially, a child is born with two innate fears. In this case, the fear of loud noises. He also cried when was shown a rabbit, a dog, and Watson in a Santa mask with a fuzzy white beard. Anything furry, white or not, frightened him. The psychologists patted themselves on the back for learning how to consistently and successfully scare a child. So Albert B's mother got $1 and was able to take her child back to her, ideally pet-free.
New controversy appeared when the identity of Albert was established. Many people had tried to find Albert since the 1920s when this experiment was performed. In 2009, investigators poring over records concluded that little Albert was Douglas Merritt. He could not be reached because he had died at 6 years old of hydrocephalus. Hydrocephalus, or water on the brain, can be a result of meningitis, but it appears that Douglas's hydrocephalus started at birth. According to family members, he couldn't see very well and never learned to walk or speak. As a result, the study very well might have been skewed, as well as being heartless.
In conclusion, considering the definitions of both fear and phobia, and the various experiments that have been run, we can properly conclude that the relationship between fear and phobia are essentially that of fear is the body's response to dangerous situations, and a phobia, in a way, is an extreme fear, which includes the anticipation of that very fear, specifically the fear-causing stimuli, proving that fear and phobia are both closely related, yet different. But now, regardless of these differences, it is important to say that both fear and phobia play big parts in our lives, but it is vital that they do not stop us from achieving greatness, but rather increase our wisdom and understanding. Thank you for listening.